Lifebrary, a podcast dedicated to your personal story. A story which is not merely a collection of events, but a powerful chronicle that encapsulates the essence of who you are. Understanding the importance of your personal story is to recognize the significance of your voice in the grand symphony of life. Let's get connected.
My name is Patrick. I retired December 1st, 2007. I'm an avid bicycle rider. That means I pedal at least 10,000 miles a year. This year was my 16th consecutive year I pedaled 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles represents, at 10 miles an hour, 20 hours a week. Actually, I pedal a lot more than that. Since 2010, I've averaged over 15,000 miles a year, which is 30 hours a week at 10 miles an hour. In 1967, in June, we got this order for class rings when I was in 11th grade, but I told my mom, instead of a class ring, I'd rather have a new 10-speed bike. So she bought me a 10-speed bike at Allis, which is right a couple miles from here. And I lived here my whole life. And so on June 10th, 1967, I got a new twin varsity with a odometer, tell how many miles I go. I joined the bike club, and the first patches I earned were 25 miles in 3 hours, 50 miles in 5 hours, 75 miles in 7 hours, 100 miles in 10 hours. And I was so enthused, I rode many weekends of 100-mile trips. And spring, and I want to go further and further. 1968, when I graduated on June 5th. June 21st, I went in the Marine Corps. And I had told many people, including my brother, that my life dream was to ride my bike to California. But I was in the Marine Corps then for 4 years. In 1969, when I had my first leave in September, no, it was October 5th, 1968. I rode on my first 200-mile bike ride for a patch. I checked the bike club what ride they got, and all they had left was a 200. So I rode 200 miles in 24 hours. The hardest thing was staying awake the 24 hours. In 1969, I went to Vietnam. And 1970, I got transferred. I was at Paris Island, South Carolina. When I got transferred to Fort Meade, Maryland, I bought a bike, Schwinn Continental, in Savannah, Georgia, and I pedaled home. And they all thought it was something great and put me in the newspapers and gave me 5 extra days of leave. So then I pedaled to Fort Meade, Maryland, where I got transferred to. In Maryland, I pedaled on a lot of weekends, including with the Baltimore Bicycle Club, 22 of the 23 counties there. And my bike trip is in this envelope right here. And 1971 and 72, I went on a lot of weekend bike trips all over Maryland. 72, I got discharged after 4 years. And went on February 72, I had a bike accident. I went into a windshield of coming on base one day and one night, and it was Captain McGill. He was my captain, right, coming into base. So I was in the hospital, and bike was wrecked, and they wanted me to pay for it, but Lieutenant Colonel said I didn't have to since I was going to be discharged in June anyway. So when I got a new bike, the Schwinn there in Maryland, and I June 72 when I got discharged, I rode my went on my bike, and they paid me for a POV, privately owned vehicle. So in 72, I went on my epic bike trip, 5,000 miles. Very exciting, adventuresome trip. I got the miles here, and I got the day by day right here too. When I got home September 18th, I had a full-grown beard, and I never shaved since. And it was 3 months. I came home, and my mom was just coming home from shopping. So in 73 and 74, I just rode my bike on weekends. 73, I started work at the post office, and got this letter from this one guy that I met in Newfoundland, and he said, me and him were the only ones I was the only one he knew of who went 5,000 miles like him did that summer of 72. So he asked me want to go to Alaska, and I said, no, I can't because I just started a job in the post office. But in 75, I had enough vacation saved up. I only used 1 day of annual from my first day of work at 73 to 75. So I have enough 6 weeks vacation, and I rode my bike to California. It's my dream since 67. And it was extremely adventuresome and epic. I got the miles right here, and I got the day by day right here. And it was a very exciting trip. On my way back, somebody asked me where I'm going next. And I said, Alaska. That's where Tony Van Bear, that guy, wrote me. So when I didn't use any vacation time for the rest of the year, 76, and then in February 77, I put in for annual leave and got it. And I decided to leave on the longest day of the year, which is summer solstice. So maximum daylight. I don't ride at night. And then for my 77 trip, I rode to Alaska. I got all the miles here, and I got my day by day right here. So it was a very exciting, epic, adventuresome trip. As the thing about almost thought that I wouldn't make it on 72 and 75 and 77 is because 72 my wheel kept breaking. So I got a new wheel finally, even though it was brand new. I had the wrong type of wheel. So I've used strong steel wheels ever since. And 75 I had those cactus needle flats. In fact, when I went to my Uncle Ralph's in Phoenix, he complained about me being so late, and I said I had the cactus needle flats. And I went to a gas station, and they fixed it up so I wouldn't get them again. And then when I got a flat tire, after I got home in Delafield, all the gooey stuff came out from glass. 77 on the Alaska Highway, it was tough because it wasn't paved and it wasn't stones, it was just mud. Remember when I walked 7 miles from 101, and it was just raining all the time too. So it was all mud. I met these two guys from Wauwatosa, and they recognized my West Allis plate, and he said, "Wow, they're turning back. They ain't going." I said, "I'm going. Even if I got to walk the whole way, I'm going." So I made it, and I used up 2 cans of oil, and I thought maybe my oil just wouldn't last. Fort Nelson, I got some oil finally. And, well, after that epic trip, 1978, I had my 30th birthday. I was kind of depressed, and then I got this letter from these people I met on the boat on the St. Lawrence on my 72 trip. We've written a Christmas card every year. And they asked me to come over, and I said, wow. I'd be a laughing stock of all adventure cyclists ever lived if I never went on a winter bike trip. So I said, yeah, I'll ride my bike over there in January. And I got the 2 weeks annual leave, and I rode my bike there in January '79, and I got my miles right here. That was an epic trip because it was the middle of winter. And so in 1980, I met a girl near my house, and we got engaged in 1981 and married her. And unfortunately, I'm still married. 43 years. I don't know. It's just. And then 1984, my oldest son was born. In 1987, my second son was born. Before my two sons were born, me and my wife, we went on 2 one-week trips on our tandem that I bought so she could ride with me. And I got the miles right here. And so after that, I just didn't really ride much except to work. I don't own or drive a motor vehicle. I ride my bike to work every day for my entire career. Worse the weather, the more determined I was to get to work. And then when I retired on December 1st, 2007, I decided, gee, what am I going to do? Retirement isn't about money, it's about how many miles you can ride. So and my wife said, where are you going? I said, I'm going on a bike ride. And she said, it's the middle of winter. I said, it doesn't matter. As long as they got the roads plowed and trails plowed, I can ride. So I ride all winter long on plowed trails and roads. And so I kept trying to see, every year I try to see how many miles I can go. More miles, more and more. And one day in December 2011, I was at the bike shop. Chris Cagle, the owner of the bike shop, I've been going to that shop for like 40 years, since 72. And he always asked, 73, yeah. And he always asked me, comes over to me, asks me what I want in my bike, and he asks me about how I'm doing and my family and stuff. And told me he'd like me to go on a trip with him and a dozen people to Portland in 2013. We'll ride 60 miles a day for 60 days, and everybody will be at least 60 years old. And I said, I ride 60 miles every day anyway, from 9:30 to 3:30. And he said, I know, that's why I asked you. So I was pretty excited. Once in a while, I like to meet people my speed to ride with. Very rarely do. And all through August 18th, I met him in the park, and he said we had 12 people going, and everything was normal as far as I know. October, my wife asked me how come I'm not buying any the brewer tickets for July and August. I said, I'm going on that bike trip. She said, did you ever meet any of Chris's friends or meet Chris? Go ride with Chris? I said, no. She said, I don't think he's going. I said, well, if he's not, I'm ordering my adventure cyclist map. I'm going with or without him. Hopefully it's with him, though. But in spring, he invited me over to the state fair for that bike expo, and he gave me this plaque for being a 40-year customer, and he told everybody I'm going on that Portland to Portland trip. I asked him about details. He said, go to the bike shop on Thursday or Friday. Thursday was raining, so I went on Friday, and gave me the route thing. He said only Sharon and Nancy planned it, and him. And I was pretty skeptical. I asked him when the spring training trip is. He said there won't be none. kind of skeptical. I've known him for 40 years. He knew I never rode a fast bike or anything like that. And so I told my wife, and a week before, when he picked me up, a week before we had the bike checks, and he checked it, and okay, and then we had to take the bikes in there, and he said, I was the second bike there, and he had a racing bike there, and I said, what's this racing bike? And they can't ride with us. Well, I get to Portland, took the plane, and my wife, and he met me at the airport in Portland. He took all the bikes there a week before. I rode my mountain bike that week. And there were all racers. There were nobody I could ride with. They were all super fast riders. They had racing jerseys. I don't ride with anybody wearing a racing jersey. I wear regular clothes. They were all 60 years old, but they had these skinny, bald tires. I've never rode anything like that. They were super fast people, and so I had to go by myself. And when I got to lunch that first day, I found out that was Jared and Nancy talked to me and we're done eating. I was more surprised. They were not only super fast riders, they were super fast eaters, the fastest eaters I've ever came across in my life. Wow, how could they be done eating already? So when I got the next day, my phone didn't work that morning, and I got the next day at lunch, there was a phone store, and he just said all I had to do was press that red button. So I called Chris and told him I'm going to go by myself the rest of the way. And then I called my wife and told her I'm going by myself the rest of the way, and she asked, how come? I said, Chris lied to me about having people to ride with. There was nobody to ride with, nobody my speed. They were all bike racers. There was nobody. He lied to me. So I had to went the rest of the way by myself. There'd be one day in Montana and one day in Minnesota I met somebody to ride with for a day. So I got to the end. Got home, my wife asked, when are you gonna finish the rest of the trip? I said, well, I'm gonna go to wait till Chris and his racers come back and I'll go talk to them. And so I went to the bike shop afterwards, and they said he wasn't there. He wasn't. He had a meeting in Madison. So I called him on the phone, and he told me he has a ticket for me for the Lake Express. Boy, I was really surprised, and I couldn't talk to him because he was at a meeting. So I said, I'll be there. Now, why would he have a ticket for me in Lake Express? Certainly should have realized that I would have realized that when he lied to me about having somebody to ride with, that I would have left and go on my own trip. So I met him at that Lake Express and showed Sharon Nancy the miles I rode, and we all went on the boat together. Nobody was talking, though. It was pretty early in the morning, and after I got out of the porta potty, everybody was gone. So I went on my own that day. And next morning, I called Chris and told him where I was, and he said, well, I'll ride with you tomorrow. So I told him where I was at that wayside in Michigan, and so he met me. And I was waiting. There was a whole bunch of bike racers going, and I was really surprised. Whew. How can they ride that close without crashing into each other? Real tight bike race group. And then there was two ladies at the end that hollered, Chris is coming, Chris is coming. I said, wow, those are Chris's bike racing group. Whew. And then a few minutes later, then comes three recumbents that parked, and I went over there and met them. That was Chris introduced me to Mary and Pete. And so we rode together. Well, first we went to ate at that Subway there, and Chris was still working. He owned 7 bike shops, and he'd call his manager every morning and every night. He was just the owner. He didn't do anything. He was just owner in charge. And then we rode together to the hotel, and Chris told me to stay there. And he came out and told me I could sleep there for the night and meet everyone else. And I was really excited about meeting the bike racers. I had a lot of questions asked, like how long they knew Chris, when did he ask him to go on the bike ride? Are they married? And what's their average speed and how many miles they ride? And then why did they go on that trip? And when and why did they become bike racers? Had all those questions. So just Chris and me went to dinner, and Mary and his daughter, who was the sag wagon driver. And when I sat on the porch waiting for him, the girls would wave and the guys would just look away. I don't know why. And then next morning, I'm staring at all those bike racers getting ready, and this lady tells me, oh, that group travels at 17 miles an hour, and we travel at 15 miles an hour. I travel at 12 miles an hour. There's no way without any gear. There's no way I can go that fast. Chris knew that. And I said, well, I'll go with Chris with the recumbent group. So I went to Chris, and he said he had 2 things to tell me. I'll never be able to stay with him again because he promised the hotel that they would eat with us, and they didn't. Because it was agreement they were on their own for supper. They didn't have to eat with us. And the second thing I told them, there's no agreement that says they have to meet me, so they wouldn't meet me. So when Chris and I, after that, since they wouldn't meet me or eat with us, we realized that they were all true arrogant racing snobs. We never had a thing to do with them. They would never go near us ever the rest of the trip. So that was the end of that trip. Well, we did, on the last day, Chris had me lead the way last 30 miles into Portland, so did that. But they weren't allowed to talk to me because of the racing code. People wearing jerseys are not allowed to talk to people not wearing jerseys. That's just the way it is. They're very snobbish and they're arrogant. That's how it is for people wearing jerseys. So I just got home and I still continue to ride my bike 60 miles a day, 300 to 400 miles a week. And I try to see how many miles I can ride every year. The reasons for riding a bike are, 1, it's fun. Everybody has fun or they wouldn't do it, even a motorcycle. 2, adventure. It's a very exciting adventure when you go on a trip. Sense of accomplishment. I feel very excited when I finish a trip. And I like to see how many miles I go every year, or every day, or every week, every month, and I write them down. I write all my miles down. That's a sense of accomplishment right there. I got all my miles written down right here. And independence of motor vehicles. I believe everyone who owns both a car and a bike, they don't drive a car more than 5 miles. They rather pedal a bike. But I don't own or drive a motor vehicle myself. Companionship. I don't depend on riding with anybody, but I'd like to meet people my speed and ride with them. And the reason I went on the trip is when Chris asked me and insisted me, I thought they would be my speed. That's the way I thought when Chris asked me, and they weren't. And because I can do it, that is the biggest reason of all. A lot of people who enjoy doing stuff, they'll say, because I could do it. And, after last year when I was diagnosed with a heart valve stenosis and a and my doctor wouldn't let me ride my bike. That's what you feel, so great that you could do it. So as long as I can ride my bike 50 miles a day, I feel I'll never become elderly. So, okay, well, I guess that's it. Thank you.